Okay, how's everybody doing this week? I didn't hear that. How's everybody doing this week? Yeah. I thought I'd hear something better than yeah. This semester has just been a dream. I don't know how you all feel, but being in 2 Corinthians and going through these metaphors, I just say, man, there couldn't be anything better that young people could get help from and enjoy Christ from than these metaphors that we're doing in 2 Corinthians. It's so excellent. I don't know if too many of you ever studied the book of 2 Corinthians, but many hold the view that 2 Corinthians is an autobiography of the Apostle Paul. And other people hold the view that it's an autobiography of a man in the Spirit. And so here's Paul, and Paul, no doubt, is a minister of the new covenant. And yet to just say he's a minister without some explanation and understanding, we all have a kind of an idea what a minister is. But when you get a metaphor and you use a metaphor, your understanding goes to a much deeper level when you have metaphors. So I just wanted to start by having a little review. Don't worry, I'm not going to put you on the spot. If anybody wants to do it, they can do it. But we've had 2 metaphors so far. Okay, does anybody would like to get up without looking at the page and tell me what the 2 metaphors are? We got Isaac there? Okay, Isaac, you usually volunteer. Do we have somebody else that can volunteer? I mean, if not, Isaac, we'll let you go. But, I mean, surely, is there a freshman here that could do the 2 metaphors? Come on, we need somebody to represent. Somebody from the freshman class. I mean, all you got to do is stand up and name the 2 metaphors. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. Nobody? I mean, Sarah, you know them, don't you? Oh, you weren't here. Okay, you have an excuse, Sarah. Okay. All right, Donovan. Yeah. 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 And we're incense bearers. Okay, good. No, that's good. That was good reading. Did you read that, Donovan? Did you read that off the page or no? Okay, can anybody stand up without looking at the page and tell me the 2 things, 2 metaphors that Paul uses to show what a minister is? Okay, Josh, all right. Josh, look at them and just be bold with your spirit.
We are captives of Christ,
Hey.
incense bearers.
Amen. Okay. Okay, so with a captive, Carrie gave us 2 words for a captive that I think we all, again, have to remember again and again. And that is, number 1, a captive is defeated. He's a defeated person, defeated by the Lord, not defeated by sin, but defeated by the Lord, and a person led. And, it's interesting because in our life, the Lord, in a very fine way, is working in different areas of our life to defeat us. With some of us, it might be things we listen to. With some of us, it might be things we look at. With some of us, it might be the way we speak or we don't speak. But he's always working in a fine way to defeat us in certain areas so that he can gain more ground in us. I'll give you an example. Like I was on the way to school, and I always have this little temptation to push the button, for the radio. It's just there all the time in the car. I get in the car, push the button. And so I'm there in my car, and the Lord says, why don't you listen to the spoken word this morning? In other words, the brothers have it set up where you read the Bible, but you can have someone speak it to you. And I did, and I was like, wow, that was really good, listening to the word spoken. So brothers, whoever put that up on the app, that's excellent, having that up. And then it went on to the Old Testament, and I was just enjoying. I like this word, I was luxuriating in the Word of God. It was so rich. And, one thing we've noticed over the years, okay, write this down. I know a lot of y'all are taking notes, but make sure you get this. Okay, a defeated Christian is a happy Christian. Okay, write that down. A defeated Christian is a happy Christian. When you're defeated and the Lord wins, then there's just such a sense of joy within your being. Over the years, Carrie, you've been here a long time. I've been here a long time. One little thing that I've noticed in younger Christians that the Lord's always trying to work on is to get baptized. He's just working on people. And don't worry, I'm not going to have a call for baptism tonight. I'm not going to ask you to get baptized. But I've noticed that this is a big thing with young people. And when the Lord begins to speak to them, there's one or two choices. Let the Lord defeat you and get baptized, or begin to wrestle with the Lord. And Carrie, you can testify, some people have wrestled not only for weeks, not only for months, but even for years have wrestled with the Lord about getting baptized. But boy, when they do get baptized, there is such joy, such happiness. And so let me just say that again. A defeated Christian is a happy Christian. Do you all want to be happy? Be defeated. Oh, that's tough to swallow that one. Be defeated. Yes, be defeated. Okay? And then what comes out of that defeat is a fragrance. Okay, let me tell you something. This fragrance of Christ cannot be produced any other way. You can't copy it. You can't have your own recipe for it. It's only produced one way, is by a defeated person brings forth a fragrance of Christ. They have some of these, companies, they've been around for a long time, Coca-Cola, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they guard those recipes with their life. They have them in big safes. They have them locked up. They don't want anybody to get that recipe. And so people, they make attempts. You've been in the store and they have all these different, bottles of, they call it Coke or Cola. They don't call it Coke, that's trademark. They call it Cola, and you're there and you taste it. It's not the same. It's just not the same. Okay? It's only one recipe, one formula that will cause that Coke to taste like that. And in the same way, there's only one thing that will bring forth true fragrance that affects people, and that is to be a defeated person by the Lord. So, brothers, do you want fragrance? Sisters, do you want fragrance? You have to be defeated. Oh, I know it doesn't sound good, but brothers, now is the time to hear these words at the beginning of your college situation. Just let the Lord defeat you. Like I would even ask, like a lot of times we'll ask questions like, hey, did you read the word today? And then people say, yeah, I read the word. Did you confess your sins today? Yeah, I confessed my sins. Did you pray today? Yeah, I prayed today. How about this? Let's ask one another, have you been defeated today? Let me tell you, that's the fast track to growth. That is the fast track to being a Christian filled with life, is to let the Lord in every decision to feed us and have His way in our being. And, this fragrance that comes out when we're defeated makes us an incense bearer. And firstly, it's a fragrance to God. It satisfies God so much. That's why when you're defeated, you feel so satisfied. You know why you feel so satisfied? Because God firstly is satisfied when He smells that fragrance. And then it's a fragrance to all those around. And listen to this, write this down. It's a separating fragrance. Let me say that again. This fragrance is a separating fragrance. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, if you're one that's perishing, when you touch this fragrance, it's a fragrance of death unto death. But if you're a son of peace, if you're called, if you're chosen, when you touch this fragrance, it's life unto life. And listen, it's real. That fragrance is real. And when people touch it, there's a response in their being to that fragrance. That's why we said, under fragrance, it has a fragrance, the incense bearer, but not also an effect. So we have to realize that these two things are kind of like foundational for the next one. And that is, we need the function of the New Covenant ministry. This is Roman numeral 2. The function of the New Covenant ministry is to write letters of Christ. Okay, now, the New Covenant ministry, what it does is it writes living letters in our heart, and it produces living letters of Christ in us. Okay, just consider when the Lord Jesus came on the earth. Do you realize he was a living letter of the Father? Okay, what he did, what he didn't do, what he said, what he didn't say, where he went, everything he did, every action, every reaction was an expression of the Father. Eventually he said to Philip, "You've been with me so long, you don't know me?" You know what he said? "He who has seen me has seen the Father." In other words, with Christ, you saw a living letter of the Father. Okay, but how about with us today? What do we need to be living letters of? Okay, the Father's living letter was Christ. Christ was a living letter of the Father. How about us? Hey, Ezekiel, who are you a living letter of?
Christ.
The Son. Okay, Christ was a living letter of the Father, and today as he's writing on us, Ezekiel, we're living letters of the Son. This is what he wants to do, is make us living letters. And you know, living letters, they're things that are read. Okay, now think about people around you. Think about your parents. Think about your roommates. Think about your friends. Think about your classmates. You know, every day they're reading you. Every day. They read your reactions. They read what you say. They read what you don't say. They read things. They're reading all the time. The question is this: are they reading Christ, or are they reading something else in you? And, you know, no doubt, probably at the beginning of this Christian journey, mostly there's not too much of Christ written in our being, right? But don't you want more of Christ written in your being so that when people get around you, there's something there that they read and they realize there's something here of Christ in this person. You know, I had this one experience where I was at a wedding of my cousin, and there was a little break before the meal was served, and they had a little duck pond down near the wedding, so I wanted to just use some time, and I went down to the duck pond and started feeding the ducks. And there was a lady there next to me, and she was with her child, and they were feeding the ducks, and we just struck up a little conversation. I didn't preach the gospel to her. Okay, I want you to know that I did not preach the gospel to her. I didn't share the wiring diagram on the bracelet. None of that. I think I might have mentioned at the very most I was with a Christian club in Austin, but I didn't share anything with her. And so we're there and we're feeding the ducks, and all of a sudden I looked at her and she was crying. And I was wondering, what is going on? Yeah, what did I do? and she was crying. The lady was crying, and she says, "You know, when I'm with you, I just sense such a peace that you have." And she was reading a letter of Christ. I thought I was just feeding the ducks. Seriously. She was reading a letter of Christ. And eventually I did share something of Christ with her. But that just shocked me. People really are reading us all the time. And they're looking. And really what people are hungry for is Christ. You know, I don't know if you ever heard of this there was a saint named Saint Francis of Assisi. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He was around the 1200s, and you know, Kyle gave me a little background information on him. He sold everything, sold it all, and went and lived in a desert to, you know, just to be for the Lord. I mean, in other words, he was serious. He was not off his rocker. He was very serious. Listen to what he said. Very short statement. He said this: "Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words." Did you catch that? Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. You know why, brothers? We're a letter of Christ. Yes, we should open our mouth and we should speak, but sometimes just who we are, there's something there of Christ that is just shining, and people can read that and there's an effect there. So, we have to ask this question, okay, well, I have never had that experience where someone started crying next to me, so I don't think there's too many letters on this page here, and that might be true. So the question we have to ask is this, okay, we have to ask this question. Okay, how do we get Christ written on us more? Okay, Josh, don't you want Christ written on you more? Yes. I mean, come on. Josh, what are you doing with these crazy Christians at UT? What do they do? They gather together in these things called CGs. They eat together. They pray together. Some of them even recreate together. But what are they doing? What are they doing, Josh? Huh?
They're preaching the word.
Yeah. You know what's happening? They're ministers of Christ to one another. And as Christ is being ministered to you, Josh, something's getting written in your being. Listen, Josh, I would say for sure, from the time that we met you, did we meet you this summer at orientation? Okay, Josh, I believe from the time we met you at orientation to right now, paragraphs have been written. I really believe that. Josh, when I see you, every time I see you, I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged because I realize there's a young man enjoying the Lord. I realize it, Josh. Josh, you don't say that much. And I'm not saying that to belittle him. It's just a fact. I mean, he just is a man of few words. Unless maybe you have to get to really know him, and then he's a man of many words. But Josh, when I see you, paragraphs, there's a man enjoying the Lord. And this is what's happening. As we're in these CGs, as we're in these Bible studies, as we're in solid ground, as we're there on the Lord's Day morning, there's a writing ministry going on. You might not even realize it. Hey, Brandon, how long you been meeting with us since this summer, right? Yeah. Do you think there's some more paragraphs that have been added to the story in you? Definitely. Oh, Brandon, lots and lots of Christ has been written into your being. Lots of Christ. And so, you just look at Roman numeral 2. Let's all read Roman numeral 2 together. Yeah, let's go ahead. Ready? Go.
The function of the New Covenant ministry to write letters of Christ.
Okay, and then in A, I'll just read it. You can follow with me. The writers, and then in parentheses, the apostles. But I just want to say this, that yes, the apostles were the writers, but today we are all those that are ministering Christ to one another. Okay, so I just don't want you to think, oh, I'm not an apostle. I can't say anything. You know what? You're a minister of Christ. Every one of us is a minister of Christ in this room and can write living letters. Yes, you're not the apostle, but you are a sent one to your friends. You're a sent, we have some here, they brought their relatives. They brought their friends. I mean, on the Lord's Day morning, do you realize that I think we had about 5 or 6 friends that came on the Lord's Day morning? If you brought one of the friends, could you raise your hand? Yeah. Okay, so Luis, you brought a friend, didn't you?
Yeah, he's been coming now, but I brought him ever since the first Sunday morning service. My roommate.
So, hey, Luis, do you realize you're an apostle to that friend? What's his name? Jonathan. You're the one. Hey, I didn't get there. Carrie didn't get there. Isaac didn't get there. Jose Luis didn't get there. Yeah. Little Luis got there. Little Luis. Listen, you're that one that ministered Christ to him. You are so important. You are so important. Okay, so the writers, the apostles, and the element, or you could say the essence, is the Spirit of the living God. And then the verse under it, I said, you are a letter of Christ ministered by us inscribed not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. So the ink is the Spirit of the living God, and the writer are the ministers. Okay, I just wanted you to get that. That the important thing is that the ink gets on you. Okay, I just want you to get that. In B, it says, ministering the life-giving Spirit to the believers. Okay, so I need a volunteer here. Who has nice writing that can come up here and help me? Corrine? Okay, come on up, Corrine. Hey, Corrine, listen, don't worry. I'm not going to put you on the test. Harmless today, Corrine. Okay. Okay, so harmless, Corrine. Okay, what I want you to do, don't let them see, just write on the desk here. Write a big letter on there with that pen. Just write a big letter and don't fill it in. Any letter that you want, just write it on there, and then I'm going to put it up there. Just any letter you want. Yeah. But big, like not here, but like big, the whole page, okay? Yeah. Okay, good. No, that's perfect. No, you stay here. Okay, now, in the back, can you all see the letter? Barely, right? Barely. Okay, I'm using this to point out something. That person has only been in one meeting. Okay, now let's look at Ezekiel after several meetings. Now I'm going to have her write the same letter, but it's going to be a little more filled in because she's going to use one of these. Okay. There you go, yeah. Okay, now how does that look back there? Okay. Do y'all see that? Okay, now what I wanted to do is kind of fill it in a little bit there. Not much, but just fill it in a little bit, Corrine. So, yeah, you see, now realize, there's another home meeting. There's another CG group. Ezekiel, I heard you're going to the Dillers this weekend. Is that right, Ezekiel? Yeah, you know what? You're going to get a lot of writing when you get out there to that ranch. Don't think you're going to see a bunch of horses. You're going to get a lot of writing. Okay, so like Ezekiel comes home after this weekend. Whoa, look at this. Yeah. Okay, then in a couple, how many weeks, Tim? About 3 weeks, we got the college conference, right? Oh, okay. Then go ahead and add some more to that. Yeah. Hey, Ezekiel, I hope you're going to the college conference, bro. Zabin, I hope you're going. You don't want to miss out on the writing. Yeah. Okay, so this is just, listen, it's like 48 hours. That's all it is. You come Friday night, it's finished Lord's Day afternoon at noontime, and look what happens to Ezekiel after the college conference. Okay, listen. Every time you're in one of these meetings, the small ones, the big ones, Christ is writing on your being. This happens to be indelible ink. And you know what? What he writes on you is indelible. Thank you very much. Okay, that's good. Okay. And in the Christian life, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but we have what is called runners. You know what a runner is? Those that are running away from the Lord, they're runners. Listen, some of y'all in this room, I don't know, so I'm just being pure in what I'm saying. To the pure, all things are pure. Some of y'all might have been running right up to the time you got here to UT. I don't know. Some of you might have run all the way from freshman to senior in high school. Just running. You know what? Once that ink gets on you, once Christ begins to write in you, it doesn't matter how far you run. You get with your old friends, you get with the old worldling friends, and you try as much as you can to be the same as they are. You try to enjoy the same things as they are, Can't do it. You've been written on. You belong to Jesus. You know what? And so it's better. Isn't it better just stop the running? Don't you all agree? Shouldn't we all just stop the running and let Christ inscribe himself into our being? You know what? For eternity, you think it's going to be any different than this? You're going to have a new name written on you. For eternity, you're going to have the name of our God written on you. For eternity, you're going to have the name of the city of our God written on you. For eternity, it's going to be an inscription. Hey, Ezekiel, God's name is going to be written on you. You know what that means? You belong to God. That means you're an expression of God. And not only you belong to God, you're part of the city. You belong to God's people, and you're part of God's people. You know what? Indelible. You know what? If you don't want to get in that ugly mess of running and then feeling like I can't fit in, then don't come to the meetings. Okay, do you all understand what I mean? Because the more you come, the more you're going to get written on. The more you come, it's going to be harder to run. But it's a joy not to run. It's a joy to be here with all the believers and just enjoy Christ. And listen, all of us, we're not saying any of us is better than another. We all, even, you know what? Some of us might run away this weekend. But come back quick Monday and get with your CG and get more writing on you, you know what I mean? Some of us, you go home and, you got to take a little, quote, spiritual break. So you're running, man, that whole weekend. Running. The sisters see you when you come back. Sister so-and-so, how was your weekend? You don't have to say a word. It's all written all over you how your weekend was. You don't have to say anything. You got to get where the writing's going on. That's all I want you to get, is get where the writing's going on. And then in C, could you all read C together? Go.
Written not in tablets of stone, but in tablets of hearts of flesh.
Okay, so I'll go through this real quick. Our heart is made of 4 parts, okay? You can write this down. It's composed of our conscience, and the verse we would use for that is 1 John 3:20. It says, if our heart blames us, there's a kind of a condemning function in our heart. It shows that our conscience is part of the heart. And then our heart has a mind, emotion, and will. So 4 parts: conscience, mind, emotion, and will. Emotion, of course, because, love the Lord your God with all your heart. And then for the mind and the will, when it talks in Hebrews 4:12 about dividing soul and spirit, it says, and the thoughts, now listen closely, the thoughts and intents of the heart, showing that the mind is there and the will is there, the thoughts and intents of the heart. And what he's doing is he's writing. He's writing into your whole being. This is what he wants to do. He starts in your spirit. That's where the writing began. He spreads out into your mind, spreads out into your emotions, and spreads out into your will. Eventually, he is spreading out to every part of our being. So that when people are with us, they're reading something other than, oh, there's Zhang. There he is, Austin Zhang, the Zhang man. Is that just the Zhang? Oh, hey, Mario, what are they reading, man? This little guy from Laredo? What are they reading there, Mario? Come on, Mario, what are they reading? I know you're smiling. What are they reading, bro? Mario, they need to read Christ. That's what they need to read in you. Not you're from Laredo, not you're from here. One of the brothers was with us this week, and he's from, I think he's from Eagle Pass. And he was telling us, were you telling us, Luis, that Eagle Pass is right across from Piedras Negras? Okay, so he was telling us, that the things that Piedras Negras is famous for, and it's famous for, that's where nachos were invented, was right there. And there was something else, you were telling me that, Eagle Pass is famous for. Do you remember the other thing you were telling me? Or Piedras Negras.
Oh, it was founded off of the coal mines. That's why it's called Piedras.
Say, founded off what?
Off the coal mining industry.
Coal mining. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Brothers, we need to be known as people that just express Christ. You know what I mean? Like, yes, that's funny. It's kind of neat to find out where nachos were invented. but you know what? Hey, Luis, when we see you, we need to read Christ. Yes, you're from Eagle Pass, but we need to read Christ, right? Okay, then let's go on to D. Could you all read D together? Ready? Go.
One writing producing two copies, in the apostle's heart and in the heart of the believer.
Okay, sisters on verse 2, brothers on 3. Ready? 2.
Our letter inscribed in our hearts.
Okay, that's the apostles' hearts. Okay, then 3.
You are a letter of Christ, inscribed in tablets of hearts of flesh.
Okay, and then that right there is the believer's heart. So you see what it says, one writing producing two copies. So how does that work? How does one writing produce two copies? And don't tell me, you know, I've heard brothers say this, well, you have to realize, Neal, it was like a double-sided pen. As Christ, you know, as Paul was writing, see, it was also being written in his being there. Okay, now I'm not looking for that answer. You know, that's the clever answer, double-sided pen. You know what I'm saying? Okay, what's going on here? Think about this. One writing produces two copies. One writing produces two copies. You know, when you minister Christ to someone else, that very Christ that you minister is also ministered to you. Okay, you look, and then you might say, well, Neal, I'm not sure I believe you. Well, let's look at 1 Timothy 4:16. Could you all read that together? Ready, go.
Take heed to yourself and to your teaching. Continue in these things, for in doing this you will save both yourself and those who hear you.
Oh, so who gets saved there? Who gets saved? Both. Yourself, the one who ministers, and what else? The one who hears you, right? Okay, one ministry but produces two copies. Okay? That's why, let me tell you this. When you minister Christ to others, that can be one of your most joyous days, is when you minister Christ. You know, the brothers have always shared this. You know the two happiest days of a person's life? And don't tell me when you get married, Ty. Ty's not getting married right now, but anyways. Okay, two happiest days. Hey, Sarah, what do you think the two happiest days are of a person's life? A human being's life. What are the two happiest days?
You want me to give the Christian answer?
Christian angle, yeah.
Speaking of marriage, yeah, anyways. The day you are saved and the day you're baptized.
Close. That's close. It's not bad. Okay, not bad. And that's true. Those are two really happy days. I would say that the second happiest day is when you yourself lead someone else to the Lord. And I have seen it again and again. You know, we have this internship. I think we talked about it last week, and people being with us this summer. I've seen it time and time again. When someone else leads, when you as a young student lead someone to the Lord, it's a happy day. Not only does Christ get written into that student, you get Christ written all over you. You're just full of joy. So listen, it's a big thing. Not only do we have to receive the ministry, we have to be ministering. And the more we minister, listen, the more we'll get written on. It's marvelous. Okay, lastly, and I'm sorry we're running out of time, but I do need to hit these points. Okay, so how can we cooperate? Okay, A, what do we need to do? Ready? Go. Oh, come on, a little more. Yes. Good. Okay, then number 2.
Be poor in spirit, not all knowing.
Right. In other words, some of us have this problem, and I'm not picking out anybody here, but I know we all have it to some degree. Oh, I know about this. I already heard this. I already heard this message. I already read this. You know, what you're saying to me, it's not new tonight. Yeah, if you're not poor in spirit, nothing's new. If you're poor in spirit, let me just say this. Is Christ so limited? Now think about it. This is Christ, the creator of the universe, the Lord of all, the one who makes all things new. Is he so limited that you can read one verse in the Bible today and then tomorrow you don't get anything new out of it, and then the next day you don't get anything new out of it? Is he that limited? You know, this is our testimony again and again. You read the Bible and you're poor. You come to the Bible and you say, Lord, I don't know. Lord, I put away everything I think I know. Lord, what are you speaking to me today? Breathe something new into my being. Breathe something fresh into my being. We have to empty out, be poor in spirit. Then something can be written on us. Okay, then let's read C together. Ready? Go. Okay, and go ahead and read 2 Corinthians 3:16. Okay. Not preoccupied. Okay, so what are some things we're preoccupied with? Yeah, school's a big one. Okay, let me just say this. This might even happen tonight as I'm speaking here. Someone's there and all of a sudden they're thinking about some question on the test that they missed. No, I'm not kidding. I know that happens all the time. Or, you know, maybe you're working at a job and you didn't get paid yet and you're thinking about, and then all of a sudden you go into this accounting thing and you're figuring out how much money I'm going to get while the brother's speaking. You're thinking about money. Okay, sisters, what are you all thinking about, you know? Okay, I won't ask. But listen, okay, we are preoccupied people. That's who we are. Preoccupied with money, preoccupied with studying, with our future, with our job, our family. I mean, everything that in the world you can think of, we're preoccupied with. But I would like to make a bold statement tonight. We have a heart that turns. Okay, let me say that again. We have a heart that turns. Okay, listen, when Orville and Wilbur Wright were there at Kitty Hawk, and that plane got up, you know, that was like, what was that, about 1906, 1907, somewhere in there? And they got off the ground, and I think it was just a little over a minute that they actually flew. What came out of their mouths? It flies. That's what came out of their mouth. It flies. Well, brothers, what needs to come out of our mouth is it turns. We have a heart that turns to the Lord. We don't have to stay in preoccupation. We can turn our heart to the Lord. Right in the middle of you figuring out how much money you have, you can turn. Right in the middle of figuring out why, you know, trying to figure out why that brother ate your cereal this morning, you can turn, you know. Or maybe even worse, the brother's wearing your shirt and he never asked you. You can turn. We have a heart that turns to the Lord. Okay, then you can get written on. Okay, then finally D. Let's all read D together.
In contact with the ministers of the new covenant through their writing or speaking.
Okay, we'll stop here.